Hey guys, Tyler here. In previous videos, I've discussed the biology of the aliens introduced in Star Trek: The Original Series and the TOS films, as well as the animated series. TOS is often stereotyped as having rather uncreative alien designs, and indeed, most species the Enterprise crew encountered were just like humans, not even with the forehead makeup, but TOS and TAS actually did depict quite a few remarkable non-humanoid aliens. When it comes to the TNG era, similar budgetary limitations and the Alien of the Week format encouraged lots of plain-looking aliens as well. But just as with the previous series, many of these aliens hail from homeworlds with quite unique environmental conditions that would have major implications for their biology and evolution. And Lower Decks carries on TAS's tradition of experimenting with lots of interesting, colorful designs, both humanoid and non-humanoid. In this video, I'd like to catalog lots of the one-off aliens from Star Trek: The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Lower Decks, comparing them to our expectations about aliens in real life. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Architects of Fate. Hey, are you looking to build an adventure with friends? Well, I just might have the place for you. Architects of Fate is a Twitch channel that specializes in tabletop RPGs, with an emphasis on interactive gameplay and storytelling, all for free. Just by jumping into chat, you can make the lives of the game master and players easier or harder. It's up to you. Not only do Architects of Fate play well-known RPGs like 5th edition D&D and Cyberpunk, but they also play less common RPGs like Star Trek, Star Wars, Conan, Aliens, The Expanse, Fallout, and more, plus totally original games like Solar Patrol, and Bad Horse's Evil League of Evil with the two-headed DM. Architects of Fate even has community game nights with chat. They're always looking for new games to share with each other and invite you to play alongside them. The goal of each stream is to make sure every viewer and player gets their chance to contribute and shine. If you like Star Trek, check out Bajor Rising on Mondays, featuring an ad hoc team of junior officers on the Galaxy-class USS Odyssey. Players embark on official and classified missions in support of Bajoran independence during the Cardassian occupation. They discover the prophets may not be mythical, and another, greater enemy may have plans for the sector. Join in to help weave tales of covert operations, moral dilemmas, and the struggle for freedom. There's also Cookie Trek, streaming on Fridays. Hosts and chat collaborate as a writer's room to craft original, often hilarious Trek-inspired stories that draw from the entirety of Trek lore. This season, called Cookie Trek Fan Service, is set in the Enterprise era. 3 classic Trek tropes are on the table each week, and in true Enterprise fashion, there's no promise established continuity will survive. Started in early 2019 by Chief Architect Not Too Shabby, Architects of Fate continues his family's tradition of tabletop gaming and late-night storytelling by sharing the experience with everyone. So, come watch and join a group of players to write new stories and forge new friendships. Architects of Fate can be watched live on Twitch or rewatched on YouTube at the links in the description below. Big thanks to Architects of Fate for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get started. Just as a bit of a disclaimer, in this video I will only be talking about intelligent extant alien species first introduced on screen that I haven't covered already. Aliens first seen in TNG that I've already made videos about on this channel include the Bajorans, the Bolians, the Borg, the Cardassians, the Ferengi, the Progenitors, the Q, and various other non-corporeal species like the Dowd and Zalconians, the Sheliak, and the Trill. Now, with that out of the way, let's actually get started. The Akamarians are a humanoid species native to the planet Akamar 3, orbiting the real-world star Akamar, or Theta Eridani. Introduced in The Vengeance Factor, the Akamarians are distinguished by an indentation on their foreheads, as well as facial tattoos, and the hemoglobin of their blood is composed of both iron and copper. Their society is largely divided into clans, which also translates into politics and has fueled blood feuds that could last for generations. After some point in the 23rd century, however, the Akamarians overcame their cycle of violence, achieving relative peace, but a significant population One refused the terms of the peace, living as interstellar nomadic marauders and calling themselves the Gatherers. The Gatherers would raid outposts and ships in the Akamar system and neighboring systems and sectors for equipment. But in the episode, Jean-Luc Picard is able to encourage reconciliation between the Gatherers and their home government. But as of 2382, the largest population of Akamarians outside Akamar 3 still resides on Federation Starbase 80 due to a negotiating hiccup that has surrendered half the station to their authority. As for the Akamarians' home planet itself, its parent is an A-type star 165 light-years away. These kinds of stars are relatively young, such that the Akamarians might have evolved in another star system and settled on Akamar 3 in the distant past, because the planet would likely be subject to more intense UV radiation, plus Akamar being a variable star. The Akamarians would need requisite genetic adaptations to deal with this excess radiation, or their planet's atmosphere would need to be able to more thoroughly block this part of the EM spectrum. The Aldeans are human-like aliens who hail from the planet Aldea, considered for thousands of years to be a legend. Their society is self-contained and self-sustaining, and incredibly sophisticated technology provides their daily needs. The Aldeans are said to have evolved past conflict towards a pure state and devoted themselves to art and culture. Aldean society is structured into units that specialize in particular fields. Millennia ago, the Aldeans' ancestors built an enormous planet-wide defense system run by a computer called the Custodian, which maintains an immense shield and cloaking device, as well as a repulsor beam that is powerful enough to push starships hundreds of light years away. But as revealed in When the Bow Breaks, the cloak has depleted Aldea's ozone layer and caused the Aldeans to suffer from chromosomal damage from UV radiation poisoning, making them infertile. Most of the native wildlife has also gone extinct. The episode sees the Aldeans abduct the Enterprise D's children to repopulate the planet, but they return them after learning Federation technology can help reverse the radiation damage and make the Aldeans fertile again, or MAFA. I know a lot of people wish they could have kept Wesley, but think about all those times afterward that he saved the ship. After putting the ship in danger. The Algolians, first seen in Cupid, are a Federation member race from a planet orbiting the real star Algol, or Beta Persei.
Omicron Persei 8.
No, not Omicron Persei, Beta Persei. Also a variable star, Algol is a trinary system composed of a B-type, a K-type, and an F-type star. The K-type orbits the primary every 2.87 days, and the F-type orbits the K-type every 680 days. Thus, the Algolian homeworld would have a very specific window where not only would it be habitable, but its orbit would be stable, period. And due to the higher energy radiation from Algol, including X-rays, the Algolians would need genetic adaptations to deal with this radiation, which could be reflected by their tougher, browner skin. Algol's young age also probably means the Algolians are not native to the star system, as large blue stars are not considered suitable for naturally hosting habitable planets, meaning their homeworld may be terraformed. The Elasmorphs are shapeshifters from Daled 4, a tidally locked world that has major cultural differences between the hemispheres, with both sides frequently in conflict. A child, Celia, born to parents from each side, is transported by the Enterprise from Clavdia 3, where she had trained for 16 years, back to Daled 4 as seen in The Dauphine. The natives of Angel 1 are a humanoid species native to Angel 1. Huh. They really didn't bother coming up with another name? Interesting. And in classic 80s fashion, their society is based on sexism, except this time it's the men who are second-class citizens. Get it? They're matriarchal is what I'm saying. They also seem to be pre-warp, possessing at least a mid-20th century level of technology, though they are aware of other intelligent species. After rescue pods from a damaged Federation freighter landed on the surface, the survivors spent 7 years advocating gender equality. The Enterprise mediates a conflict between these supposed anarchists and the ruling parliament that prevents their execution, although the group is exiled to a remote and unpopulated region. The Angel 1 natives physically resemble humans in appearance, such that they can interbreed with them, although men tend to be physically smaller and weaker than women. This likely points to an alternate evolution of sexual dimorphism long in Angel 1's past, not terribly unusual among species as there are many animals on Earth where females are larger and stronger than males. Angel 1's parent star is Alpha Gruis, or Alnair, a B-type main sequence star 100 light-years away, and its young age of 100 million years means the Angel 1 natives might not have evolved in the system or transported there by a race like the Preservers. Either way, the star's excess radiation would mean Angel 1 is probably terraformed, and the Angel 1 natives would need requisite genetic adaptations to deal with this excess radiation. Due to Angel 1's strategic position near the Romulan neutral zone, Starfleet hopes to one day make Angel 1 a Federation member. Ah, nice. Just like another class-based segregationist society, the Ardanans. The Angosians are another species outwardly indistinguishable from humans who, like the Aldeans, have eschewed violence in favor of intellectual development. The Angosians even have a rough equivalent to the eugenics wars, with Angosian super soldiers possessing distinct biological differences from baseline Angosians. They were also outcasts who were exiled just like Khan and his followers. In The Hunted, when the Angosians are petitioning to join the Federation, the occasion is interrupted when the soldier Roga Danar starts a rebellion with his fellow soldiers to expose the gross rights violations of their training program. They even storm the main government building in a clear parallel to... Oh, wait, that hadn't happened yet. Oh, and 14 years later, Brad Boimler calls Roga Danar the all-time biggest badass, something only he would say.
I said, who's the all-time biggest badass, not who's a dude nobody's heard about.
Everyone knows Roga Danar.
No, they don't.
She totally outsmarted Picard.
The Antedians are a fish-like bipedal species from Antede 3, introduced in the episode Manhunt. While Worf considers them a handsome race, Loaxana Troi states,
Last time I saw something like that, it was being served on a plate.
What a deeply fucking racist comment, Loaxana, Jesus. Those fish are trying to join the Federate... Wait, what? Oh, they planned on blowing up the conference? Still, ultimately, it is likely that the Antedians become Federation members, as there is one present at Federation HQ in the late 32nd century. The Antedians' scale colors vary quite a bit, including purple, blue, and yellow, and the shape of their head fins can vary as well. They find spaceflight extremely uncomfortable and travel in a catatonic state, and upon arrival following a voyage, they require large quantities of food like fish called vermicula to replenish their bodies. The Antedians are somewhat reclusive, and before the 2360s, few humans had seen one in the flesh. But a Federation member being mostly planet-bound following contact with other civilizations is not that unusual a prospect, especially given Antede 3 may possess a unique environment. The Antikins are large, furry humanoids from the planet Antica in the Beta Renner system. Introduced in Lonely Among Us, these aliens also petition to join the Federation, and the Enterprise is tasked with helping resolve a dispute with their sister planet, Soleil. The Soleil are reptilians, their heads somewhat resembling cobras, much like the Antikins resemble dogs. The Arcarians are humanoids native to Arcaria, who resemble humans except for some forehead ridges. Their planet hosts a Starfleet facility, though it's not explicitly confirmed whether they're Federation members. Oh man, is this a American military base situation? The Atrians, hailing from Atria 4, are also similar to humans, save for their large protruding ears. This suggests their homeworld, which experiences seismic instability in 2370, may have a thinner atmosphere resulting from slightly lower gravity, possibly due to a larger mass cancelled out by a higher planetary radius. Larger ears would allow the Atrians to pick up sound waves that would have more trouble traveling in this environment. The Atrians' society is very communal, and they are governed by a central authority that ensures the welfare of the population. Their level of technological development helps facilitate interactions with external allies like the Federation, though it's not certain whether they are members. But if they are, they'd presumably be a better fit than the aliens from A Quiet Place. The Bandi, native to Deneb 4, are one of the first alien species introduced in TNG. In the first episode, Encounter at Farpoint. While their technology and architecture are not particularly advanced, they do have contact with the Federation. They are known for capturing a spaceborne life form they pass off as Farpoint Station, which the Enterprise frees by the end of the episode. Their home system is said in 2364 to be at the edge of the great unexplored mass of the galaxy. This could place them around the star Alpha Cygni, over 2,600 light-years away, or many of the other closer stars named Deneb, most of which are young, bright, hot stars that would normally be unable to support life. So the Bandi may be descended from inhabitants of another star system that colonized Deneb, whatever Deneb means, in the distant past, or have been moved there by a race like the Preservers. Barash's species, seen in Future Imperfect, largely resembles the stereotypical gray alien. This would likely imply, in my view, that his people, who were killed in a planetary invasion, might have evolved on a planet orbiting a dimmer red or orange dwarf, which would have encouraged the development of large eyes to suck in extra light, and Barash's pale purplish-brown skin. Indeed, the planet where his mother hid him and Will Riker discovers him, Alpha Onias III, orbits a K-type dwarf near the Federation-Romulan border. Barash would later go on to star in the short-lived TBS series People of Earth.
Okay, he's looking right at me. I know my freaking job, Jeff.
Oh, eat a dick.
The more human-like Barconians are a pre-industrial society native to Barcon 4 and are distinguished by a pattern on their foreheads indicating their recent attendance of a KISS concert. In the episode Thine Own Self, Data is sent to retrieve radioactive material from a crashed deep space probe on the planet. While there, he sustains memory loss that not only includes his biographical information, but also what radioactivity is. Ah, yes, this was a Season 7 episode. They were really wanting to wrap up the series by then. While Barconian culture once took demons, monsters, and spirits seriously, as of the 2370s, they've begun to adopt more scientific methodology. They have a roughly Renaissance level of technology and are largely agrarian, their population mostly inhabiting towns and villages. The Barzan are, however, one of the more interesting humanoid species introduced in TNG. Native to Barzan 2, they have pairs of subtle ridges on their foreheads, and their blood is black in color. When off-world, they rely on breathers that provide them with the toxic gases found in Barzan 2's atmosphere. A resource-poor species, the Barzan do not possess manned space travel, but have established contact with other civilizations, and values of family and diligent sacrifice are woven into their culture. They are governed in the 2360s by a planet-wide government and are known for discovering a wormhole near their planet that proves to be unstable, as depicted in The Price. Barzan 2 later joins the Federation in the 25th century and remains a member even after the burn. Another Trek species known for using breathing apparatuses is the Benzite species. They typically have smooth, hairless blue or green skin, and a thick protrusion extends over their face, displaying a prominent nasal lobe and brow. Two facial tendrils droop down from above the upper lip. Benzites also have two opposable thumbs on each hand, another unique trait of the species. Prior to the 24th century, the Benzites had only limited contact with the Federation, though by 2364, this is widened. Coming of Age even introduces the first Benzite to join Starfleet Academy, Mordock, also known as the Vape God. You okay, dude? Benzites are highly meticulous, and regulations on Benzite ships require officers to provide a solution when reporting any unexplained occurrence. Benzar likely joined the Federation by the 2370s, as it is referenced in DS9 as a key Federation world that falls to the Dominion during the course of the Dominion War. Benzar is said to orbit Delta Pavonis, a real G-type subgiant star 19 light-years away from Earth, and canonically located near the Romulan neutral zone. Delta Pavonis is also over 6 billion years old, giving complex life enough time to evolve in the system. Delta Pavonis also happens to be the parent star of House Atreides' longtime homeworld of Caladan in Dune. The Beta Renner cloud is an intelligent, non-corporeal entity encountered near the Beta Renner system in Lonely Among Us, capable of interfacing with the ship's systems and entering the neural systems of several crew members in an attempt to establish contact. Many people have probably expected me to make a full-fledged video about the Betazoids, given Deanna Troi is a main character in TNG. But to be honest, guys, from an alien biology standpoint, the Betazoids aren't particularly interesting to me. They're basically just matriarchal telepathic humans. They're known for their completely black irises. We learn they have a gestation period of 10 months, and in midlife, Betazoid women undergo a physiological change called the phase, during which their sex drive increases by a factor of 4 or more.
Or more? Never told me that.
And of course, Betazoids can suffer from xanthe fever, causing them to lose control of the projective aspect of their empathy. This can result in people around them being infected with the same emotional state as the affected Betazoid, directed by their own subconscious desires, fears, and more. Betazoid telepathy derives from a special neurotransmitter in their paracortex. Most develop the skill in adolescence, though some are born with it, like Tim Elbrin. These individuals are generally unable to filter out the constant noise of other people's thoughts, causing them to have mental problems of varying severity. Still others develop psionic abilities, far more limited than the average of the species. I know quite a few people in real life with below average empathy. Just like my ex. Betazoids are also capable of sensing the emotional capacity of animals, as well as non-corporeal intelligent beings. But there are some species who cannot be read, like the Ferengi, due to these other species' specialized brain structures. These telepathic and empathic abilities can also be lost, just like humans can lose one of their senses, and the amphibious life form Troi devolves into due to Barclay's protomorphosis syndrome in Genesis, while perhaps not a direct ancestor of Betazoids themselves, could imply their distant ancestors evolved telepathy as a means of communicating underwater. Culturally, Betazoids practice at least one polytheistic religion, and the dominance of women in public life is baked into their government structures, somewhat similarly to Angel 1. Famously, of course, Gene Roddenberry wanted Betazoid women to have 4 breasts, though he was persuaded against the idea by DC Fontana. Their homeworld of Beta Z itself is a Federation member, and is said in non-canon reference sources to be the 5th planet orbiting a sun-like star, though no real-world star has been established as Beta Z's primary. The Barallans are a pre-warp species depicted in Homeward, a small group of which is resettled from their homeworld of Baral 2 to Vaca 6. This action, a violation of the Prime Directive, is orchestrated by Worf's adopted brother Nikolai Rozhenko to save the Barallans from extinction. Possessing a nose ridge distinguishing them from humans, the Barallans also have complex neurophysiology that prevents Federation medical science from performing a memory wipe on them. Unfortunately, we don't know any more information about their home system, but maybe that's for the best, as Homeward is incredibly mid as an episode. It did feature Penny Johnson-Gerald before she went on to play Cassidy Yates, though. The natives of Brael 4, featured in Deja Q, are humanoids with blunt noses, knobbed crania, deep-set eyes, and virtually no jaw movement when speaking. The Enterprise attempts to save their homeworld from a falling asteroid moon, restored to its orbit by Q, suggesting Brael 4 may be a Federation member world as confirmed by the Star Trek Encyclopedia. Star Charts characterizes Brael's parent star as a red dwarf, though we're given no indication if their homeworld is tidally locked. Either way, while intelligent life on a world orbiting a red dwarf would normally be expected to evolve larger eyes to suck in more light, some habitable planets around red dwarfs or cooler stars in general could still experience similar or even higher stellar flux and luminosity to our sun. The Breccians and Ornarans are humanoid species native to the Delos star system, introduced in the episode Symbiosis. Written by Nancy Reagan, the episode sees the Enterprise crew learn of the long-time exploitation of the Ornarans by the Breccians. The Breccians have devoted their entire economy to producing a drug that has cured a deadly plague on Ornara, but was incredibly addictive. Picard chooses not to intervene, citing the Prime Directive, which forced the Ornarans to overcome their addiction, as seen in the Lower Decks episode Trusted Sources. Brekka is later invaded by the Breen, implying the Delos system may be in the Alpha Quadrant close to Breen space. The system was also visited by a Federation scout ship in the 22nd century to document their development, and both civilizations are pre-warp. Both species are also distinguished from humans by ridges high on their noses. Introduced in 11001001, the Binars are short, genderless humanoids native to Binos in the Beta Magellan system. They have large skulls and lilac skin, but their most definitive characteristic is that they are interconnected with a master computer on Binos. When a Binar is born, a surgeon removes the child's parietal lobe and replaces it with a synaptic processor. Binars always live and work in pairs, with there being a great degree of physical symmetry between each. Their language and thought patterns closely resemble binary code, their speech a high-frequency sound unintelligible to humans. When they speak English, they usually finish each other's sentences. They carry buffers on their waists to manage information transfer and are augmented with cybernetic implants with blinking red lights. The Cairn are another telepathic humanoid species featured in Dark Page. Not only are they telepathic, transmitting images rather than words for more efficient information exchange, they don't even possess vocal cords. They had no concept of privacy prior to interacting with the Federation, to which they seek prospective membership, and while they do not appear to possess any notable technology mentioned during their interaction with the Federation, they do have vocal enhancers that enable them to communicate verbally with non-telepathic species. The Calamarain are another intelligent non-corporeal species who exist as swirls of ionized gas. They are capable of conducting scans with radiation and can attack with high-energy tachyons, and their language cannot be processed by the Universal Translator. Once tormented by Q, after Q is exiled to the Enterprise to live as a human, the Calamarain sense the chance for revenge in Deja Q. The Caledonians are one of the other species seen bidding for the rights to the Barzan wormhole in The Price. Tall humanoids with large craniums housing advanced brains, the Caledonians possess great intelligence and problem-solving abilities. Their society values research and intellectual pursuits above all else, and Caledonians strive to maintain this reputation at all costs. They also have three-fingered hands, which, as I've discussed before on this channel in reference to the Quarians from Mass Effect, would be sufficient enough to offer dexterity for an intelligent species. The Chalnoth, introduced in Allegiance, are large, hairy humanoids with a fearsome, intimidating appearance. They have a muscular build that includes two sets of protruding tusks. They also have yellow eyes, contributing to their animal-like aura.
He had yellow eyes, so help me God, yellow eyes.
The Chalnoth are carnivores, though at least one is seen consuming a bonsai tree for sustenance. Their society is marked by a state of anarchy and survival of the fittest, and limited records exist of their history. And while this lack of centralized government has likely limited their rate of technological progress, they do possess space travel, including scientific missions to observe astronomical phenomena. Their homeworld of Chalna orbits the real K-type star Lambda Sagittarii, also known as Cos Borealis, 78 light-years away. The outrageous Okona introduces the Coalition of Medina species, a humanoid civilization that has colonized the planets Altec and Stralib in the Omega Sagitta system, possibly referencing a star system in the Sagitta constellation. Its colonization by the Medina species in the 22nd century means at the very least it hosts habitable exoplanets, Altec and Stralib described by StarTrek.com as being in a Trojan orbit. Also, the novel Collateral Damage, while non-canon, states that Okona's species may be descended from the human-like Argelians, who I talked about in my video on TOS Aliens. The outrageous Okona depicts Okona's accusation of having stolen a precious jewel and impregnating the daughter of Altec's leader before he is exonerated thanks to intervention by the Enterprise crew. Face of the Enemy introduces the Corvalin, hairless humanoids with grayish-brown crackled skin, as well as pronounced cheekbones and a large chin. Must have been designed by Butch Hartman. They're known to serve as mercenaries who often engage in interstellar commerce, often operating near the Romulan Star Empire, and occasionally visiting Deep Space Nine. One freighter captain is tasked with transporting members of the Romulan Underground to the Federation. Though the freighter is destroyed after Troy, disguised as a Romulan, senses the captain does not intend to complete the task. The Nth Degree features the Cytherians, humanoids with unique forehead ridges native to a planet close to the galactic center. Rather than traveling the galaxy to search for intelligent life, they initiate first contact by bringing other races to their homeworld. One such encounter occurs when a probe, presumably made by the Cytherians, interfaces with Lieutenant Barclay, giving him advanced knowledge needed to bring the Enterprise through a subspace distortion to the Cytherians, after which Barclay is returned to normal. The Delbians are humanoids native to Delb 2, distinguished by facial ridges on their nose and temples. At least one member of the species is employed by the Federation as seen in the drumhead, suggesting Delb 2 could be a member world itself. The Davidians, not to be confused with the Branch Davidians, are vaguely humanoid shapeshifters native to Davidia 2. In their natural state, they have no apparent eyes, but possess an orifice resembling a mouth where their foreheads would be. They live out of phase with most other life forms and possess the ability to travel through time, feeding on the neural energy of humans from 19th century San Francisco and using the cholera epidemic of the time as a cover for their murders. In Time's Arrow, the Enterprise fires modified photon torpedoes on Davidia 2 to prevent further incursions. Durgo's species, seen in Final Mission, resemble humans except for heavy brows, slightly wrinkled noses, and a slightly bifurcated nasal tip, though we don't know much else about them. Pen Pals features the Dreamin species, a pre-warp civilization native to Dreama 4 in the Selkuni Dreama system. They have dark orange skin, large foreheads, and long fingers. In 2365, they are threatened with extinction due to their planet's geological instability. After receiving a radio transmission from a Dreamin named Sarjenka, Data violates the Prime Directive by responding, prompting the Enterprise to save the species by shattering Dreama 4's dilithium lattices. The Edo are human-like aliens who originate from Rubicon 3, a free-spirited, welcoming, and friendly people who are very open sexually with themselves and visitors. The Edo spend time with music, dancing, massages, and playing games, but also kissing. Behind this peaceful culture, though, the Edo are nevertheless extremely law-abiding. While criminality has been largely eliminated, capital punishment by lethal injection is enforced in random punishment zones. In Justice, we see the Edo are protected by a transdimensional entity they worship as a god. Data surmises the species of the Edo god once belonged to this dimension, but evolved beyond the confines of normal space-time. The god threatens the Enterprise when they bring an Edo aboard, and the entity requests the Enterprise remove colonists from a neighboring star system, Stranad. Meanwhile, Wesley is held in protective custody after being arrested for touching some grass. Of course, this is one of those times where violating the Prime Directive is the obvious thing to do. Unless you don't care about Wesley, but like I said, remember all those times he saved the ship after putting the ship in danger? The El-Orians are another significant species in Star Trek that could deserve their own video, introduced in the form of Guinan in the Season 2 premiere, The Child. A long-lived race of listeners, El-Orians can perceive beyond the confines of normal space-time. They have an awareness that supersedes the normal flow of time, making them extraordinarily sensitive to disruptions in the timeline, instrumental in numerous episodes like yesterday's Enterprise. This suggests the El-Orians have special structures in the brain that can allow them to tap into alternate realities, perhaps in a process involving quantum mechanics. These timeline alterations can make them physically ill, with symptoms ranging from general unease to severe nausea and vomiting. They are also empathic and possess limited telepathy, though not as advanced as the Betazoids. The El-Orians are a widely traveled people, with Guinan having visited Earth by the 1890s before humans had common knowledge of alien species. In the distant past, the El-Orians engaged in a Cold War with the Q Continuum, suggesting the Q may have seen the El-Orians' transdimensional capabilities as a threat. But the El-Orians faced great devastation when their homeworld was attacked by the Borg, most of the population being assimilated or killed. This occurred around 2265, with Tolian Soren's wife and children among the fatalities, and the El-Orians became a nomadic people. The Enterprise B, as seen in Star Trek Generations, rescues 47 refugees who were caught in the Nexus energy ribbon near the Sol system. The episode Imaginary Friend features the FGC-47 life forms, territorial non-corporeal beings who live in the FGC-47 nebula and feed on plasma. The episode sees a member of the species pose as an imaginary friend of one of the ship's children, hoping to gain access to the ship's energy systems as they view the Enterprise's plasma as far purer than what's normally present in the nebula. In addition to Durgo's species, I said Durgo because it sounds Australian, mate.
Maybe the dingo ate your baby.
Final mission showcases the natives of Gamelon 5, though we don't know much about their system. The Aliens, on the other hand, are more frequently depicted throughout Starfleet, introduced in Aquiel, a telepathic species. They are visually distinguished from humans by slight bulges and indentations above each eyebrow and crevices between the brows on the bridge of the nose. Likely Federation members, the Aliens hail from Hali, though we don't have any information about what kind of star Hali orbits. The natives of Haven are pacifistic, human-like aliens who inhabit a world in the Beta Cautious system, though we don't have much more information about the star itself. The Hikarans are Federation members native to Hikaris 2, known for their distinctive cranial ridges. In Force of Nature, 2 Hikaran scientists approach the Federation Science Council with findings that warp travel damages subspace, to which Starfleet responds with a complete and total shutdown of all travel above Warp 5, except for emergencies, until they can figure out what the hell is going on. While not canon, many have speculated the design of the Intrepid class and later ships may have incorporated changes that make travel above Warp 5 safer. In addition to the Haven natives, Haven also introduces Mr. Home, Loaxana Troy's valet, a tall, pale humanoid with 2 fin-like ears. Members of Home's species possess considerably greater strength than humans and can frequently consume large amounts of alcohol without experiencing any evident effects. Unfortunately, we don't have any more information about his species or homeworld. Liaisons features the Iarans, native to IR. They reproduce by a process called post-cellular compounding, emerging fully grown from natal pods, and thus do not have children. Their diet is extremely bland as they consume food purely for sustenance, and they have no natural understanding of concepts like pleasure, antagonism, or love. They have a pronounced brow ridge from which 2 additional ridges extend near vertically from above their eyes. A third, less pronounced ridge extends vertically from above their nose. They possess considerable endurance, and when injured, their metabolic rates slow to near death to promote healing. The episode sees their first cultural exchange with the Federation, during which they explore certain concepts by assigning an ambassador to each. They possess small devices, worn as necklaces, that allow them to assume the appearance of other humanoids and genders. Gender is a concept explored in the episode The Outcast that features the Janai, an androgynous race from a homeworld of the same name. The Janai used to have 2 sexes, but evolved to have none, though some individuals still engage in gender expression in an act that is not only taboo, but criminally punishable with psychotherapy. While investigating a downed shuttlecraft, Will Riker finds himself in the midst of such a case with the Janai Soren, who expresses femininity but is subjected to this treatment when the relationship is discovered. New Ground features Dr. Jadar, a member of an alien species with unique facial ridges who works on B'Elanna 3, a Federation member world, though we don't have much more information beyond this. Half a Life introduces the Kaylon, native to Kaylon 2, not to be confused with the Kaylon from the Orville. As we learn in the episode, sometime between the 4th and 9th century, the Kaylon cared for their elderly by housing them in so-called Death Watch facilities, but severe overcrowding led to the development of a ritual suicide custom called the Resolution. When the Kaylon discovered their sun is dying, turning from a yellow dwarf to a red giant, they turned to the Federation for assistance. But besides certain aspects like the Resolution, not much is known about Kaylon culture due to their relative isolationism. Attached revolves around the planet Kesprit 3's seeking a Federation membership, which is denied as the planet is divided into 2 rivaling nations that maintain a strong sense of paranoia and xenophobia. The Kesprit are distinguished by forehead ridges. The Quananians, native to a homeworld of the same name, are the non-corporeal descendants of an extinct corporeal species. In The Bonding, a member of the species appears as the deceased mother of one of the Enterprise's children, attempting to care for the boy due to guilt for causing his mother's death by an accident. But after intervention by the Enterprise crew, the aliens accept the boy is in better hands with other humans. The natives of Costalane, featured in Cost of Living, also possess distinctive V-shaped cranial ridges and elongated earlobes. Their culture includes a taboo against nudity, highlighted when Loaxana Troy backs out of a wedding with the Costalane minister. Their planet is governed by a conference of judges, and star charts indicates their world orbits a binary system consisting of a G and K class star. The Creosians, introduced in The Perfect Mate, are long-lived humanoids with trill-like spots native to the planet Kreos near Klingon space. In fact, the Klingons had conquered the Creosians for 2 centuries, the Creosians gaining independence in the mid-24th century. The Creosians once had a vast empire ruled by 2 brothers who became divided over their love for an empathic metamorph, genetic rarities who have an increased empathic ability and natural desire to please others. For centuries, the species has been divided by a war, with other members of the species residing on the nearby Vault Minor. The Enterprise is tasked with transporting a gift from Kreos to Vault Minor in hopes of ending the feud. While Kreos, also called Kreos Prime, orbits a G-type star, Vault Minor orbits a pair of red dwarfs. Just like Brel 4, it's unknown if Vault Minor is tidally locked, though either way, Vault Minor could experience slightly higher stellar flux if it orbits closely enough, explaining the Vaultee's darker skin complexion. The game introduces the Katarians, native to Kataris. While Voyager's depiction has them with small horn-like cranial ridges, their TNG depiction consists of bony foreheads divided into hemispheres and distinctive yellow eyes with horizontally slit pupils. Their exact relationship with the Federation is uncertain, as while a member of the species attempts to take over Starfleet on behalf of her people, they are later referred to as a member state, though perhaps both could be true given the passage of time between the game and the events of Voyager. Do I have to talk about the Ligonians? These are the Code of Honor aliens. Native to Ligan 2, they're a matriarchal and polygamous species whose society superficially resembles the cultures of sub-Saharan Africans. Nothing necessarily wrong with that in and of itself, to be honest, but the events of the episode, well, if you know, you know. Anyway, the Lumerians. What about the Lumerians? My boys, my girls, my peeps from Man of the People. More empaths with a weird forehead pattern. Cool, and this is another one of the episodes where Troy gets violated. Moving on. Malkorians, my boys, my girls, my peeps. From the episode First Contact. Native to Malkor 3, the Malkorians, during the mid-24th century, make rapid scientific and technological progress, including towards warp capability, though many in the population think this progress is happening too fast. The Federation sends undercover cultural observers in preparation for possible first contact, though the mission goes awry and leads to Riker being taken to a hospital. Physically, Malkorians have webbed digits and large cranial lobes. The planet is governed by a central authority led by an elected chancellor, to which various ministers answer, and they have entertainment that is broadcast across the planet. By the 32nd century, the Malkorians evidently engage in interstellar travel, as their language is present at the mercantile on the planet Hema. Star charts and stellar cartography place Malkor 3 around the Mu Ceti system, a binary star 86 light-years away, consisting of an A-type giant and K-type dwarf companion. Because of the system's age, the Malkorians may be descended from another species who colonized the system in the distant past and regressed technologically, though there is a chance they could have evolved naturally in the system given A-type stars' more intense radiation, accelerating evolution. But Malkor 3's atmosphere would have to protect surface life from such radiation, and the Malkorians would need requisite genetic adaptations so as to not accumulate cellular damage. Mu Ceti B also has a highly elliptical orbit that takes 33 years to complete, which would normally disrupt the stability of planetary orbits, meaning Malkor's habitable zone would be very precarious. Interface features the Meridgeny 7 subspace beings, non-corporeal aliens inhabiting the lower atmosphere of the gas giant Meridgeny 7. Members attempt to communicate with the crew of the USS Ramon, captained by Geordi LaForge's mother, but accidentally kill the entire crew. A member poses as Captain LaForge when the Enterprise comes to investigate until it reveals its true nature. The species of Caldos II Governor Maturin, which possesses an upturned nose that transitions into a ridge extending into the forehead, is introduced in the episode Sub Rosa. Oh no, not again. In Sub Rosa. We do this every time. Do people think it's funny? Are people getting sick of this?
Life form called Ronin, who inhabits a candle.
Okay, never mind. Actually, you know what? I'll let the king cook. I'll let the king cook, okay? Maybe I'm the bad guy, okay?
Line for generations, and she finally puts a stop to this predation after coming to her senses.
The microbrains of the Lara 3 are silicon-based life forms discovered by the Federation in 2364, as seen in home soil. They have conductive properties and exhibit transistor-like behavior and light emission. They also use cadmium salts to convert infrared radiation into energy. Their collective consciousness is formed by connective mechanisms in the soil layers of the Lara 3, much like the mycelial networks found among mushroom populations on Earth.
The mycelial network is like
mycelial network. Their communication consists of both electric charges and light emission, and they can interface with computers by transferring high-speed charged ions in the form of program instructions. After the microbrain's intelligence is confirmed, they still distrust the Federation and forbid contact for 3 centuries. The Mintakans of Mintaka 3 are an interesting case. Introduced in Who Watches the Watchers, these proto-Vulcan humanoids possess a Bronze Age state of technology. They were once religious and superstitious, though for millennia their culture has been evolving towards empiricism, including relatively advanced astronomy and archaeology. So they too have advanced to at least level 2 of the 3-body game. They are the subject of an accidental first contact with the Enterprise crew when they resort to supernatural belief by mistaking Jean-Luc Picard as one of their gods, until he is able to prove he is mortal. The cultural contamination is deemed relatively limited, with the Mintakans expected to develop more or less along their natural path of advancement towards, presumably, warp travel in the distant future. While non-canon reference sources place Mintaka 3 around Delta Orionis, a quintuple star system consisting of numerous hot blue stars, I consider this to be unlikely, as not only would it be near impossible for habitable planets to form in such a system, but it's too far away, over 1,200 light-years distant, to be consistent with locations visited by the Enterprise in surrounding episodes. Rather, I've speculated Mintaka 3's parent star could be a dimmer optical companion of Delta Orionis that's much closer to Earth, much like the fictitious Beta Rigel system in Star Trek, which I have a whole video on. Either way, though, the possibility remains that the Mintakans are descended from members of Sargon species who colonized the planet thousands of years ago, much like on Vulcan, though this is unconfirmed. The Misarians, hailing from Mizar 2, are introduced in Allegiance. They have whitish skin with sharp vertical folds below and above their eyes. Their society revolves around non-resistance, and they uphold a strong commitment to pacifist non-violence, though this avoidance of confrontation has led to them being frequently conquered throughout their history. However, they also participate in galactic trade conferences, signaling a willingness to still engage in diplomatic relations with other species. Their technological development is also largely focused towards agriculture, medicine, and infrastructure, rather than military or defense technologies. Mizar 2 itself orbits the real star Mizar, a quadruple system 83 light-years away, consisting of A-type dwarfs that orbit each other every 20.5 days. Additionally, the companions pair, with a period of 6 months, orbits the primary pair every 175 days with a fairly eccentric orbit. Thus, Mizar's habitable zone would be very precarious, with the planet possibly orbiting far out from the bright stars so as to minimize exposure to higher intensity UV radiation, and the Mizarians may be descended from inhabitants of another star system who colonized the planet long ago. Too Short a Season features the Mordanites, traditionally a tribal society composed of rival families, which the Federation has attempted to mediate. A Starfleet admiral privately armed both sides of a civil war that erupted and lasted for decades before coming to an end. Where Silence Has Lease features the immortal non-corporeal being Nagilum, native to a dimension outside normal space-time. Possessing vast intelligence and having no concept of gender or death, Nagilum demonstrates telekinetic abilities and can kill by mere thought. The entity traps the Enterprise and attempts to experiment on the crew, but releases them after realizing their resistance is too strong. Nagilum concludes humanity is aggressive and militant. Eye of the Beholder introduces the Napians, a partially empathic species distinguished from humans by a large, leaf-shaped forehead ridge. Though we don't know anything about Napia's star system, it's suggested in non-canon sources to be a Federation member. The same episode also features Nera, a member of a species with distinct nose and forehead ridges. Her species is identified in non-canon works as Canopian, hailing from Canopus planet, orbiting the real star Canopus 310 light-years away. Canopus is a young A-type star at 33 million years old, meaning the Canopians may have originated from another star system. Either way, Canopus planet would likely orbit much further out and require an atmosphere to partially protect surface life from Canopus's powerful X-ray emissions. And the Canopians would need requisite genetic adaptations to protect them as well. Canopus also happens to be the parent star of Arrakis and Dune. The Nausicans are a more well-known species introduced in Tapestry. They typically have a large and muscular physique, generally being over 2 meters in height, and are incredibly strong. Their faces are commonly an ashen color and are distinguished by a prominent bone structure, including sharp tusks that protrude at either side of their mouths. Some even have a line of small horns that run vertically down their forehead. The pitch of their voices can also resemble humans or be much deeper. While they are well known as pirates, thousands of years ago, Nausicans seem to have constructed a time portal on the planet Krolmith B, possibly pointing towards the decline of a once great civilization, so to speak, much like the Orions. Their home system, though it as of yet has not been correlated with a real-world star, consists of an M-type primary and A-type companion. This points towards the possibility that the Nausicans evolved in a neighboring star system due to A-type stars' young age and lower likelihood to host habitable planets. But while we don't know anything about the orbital separation of these systems' components, the Nausicans' tougher skin could be an adaptation to excessive radiation. The Pakleds. Oh my god, the Pakleds. I have to confess, I once considered making an April Fool's video where I started to do a alien biology essay about the Pakleds, and then I cut to one of my weird skits, like for instance, oh, Devana. Let's get started. Native to a world they call Pakled Planet, the Pakleds have thick and muscular bodies with pale grayish-white skin. They have a high pain tolerance, able to survive injuries that would otherwise be fatal to other species, and can survive for a time in the vacuum of space. Pakleds are considered intellectually deficient, a portrayal somewhat exaggerated even further in lower decks, although I suspect there's something else going on. They obviously have the capacity to operate space vehicles to some degree, even though they have likely accumulated technology from other species. They can be resourceful and cunning with their use of technology, often employing brute force tactics, such as in their first appearance in Samaritan's Snare. That said, their ships are often vulnerable to computer viruses due to disparate, potentially incompatible systems. Their society is highly stratified and insular, though they do form strong bonds with allies and friends, albeit with the goal of mutual gain from each other's skills or resources. Speaking of threats to the Federation, there's also the parasitic beings who infiltrate the Federation in conspiracy. Led by a mother creature, these parasites resemble crawling insects, being about 12 centimeters long and light purple in color. They have 6 legs, 2 pinchers, and a blue gill. They can take complete control over all brain functions of a host by placing their tendrils around the brain stem. The mother creature is much larger in size, being over half a meter tall. Though the parasites view themselves as superior life forms, they have an appreciation of dramatic entertainment, pointing towards a more complex culture than might first appear. Indeed, these parasites, nicknamed bluegills in non-canon entries like Star Trek Online, were originally intended to tie in with the introduction of the Borg in Season 2, though this connection was dropped before Q-Who was written. Their true origin remains a mystery, though other non-canon sources have characterized them as mutated Trill symbionts. Clues introduces the non-corporeal Paxons, a xenophobic isolationist species inhabiting a planet orbiting an oscillating T Tauri star. The Paxons can manipulate energy structures on many levels and can control individual life forms. They are encountered by the Enterprise twice, both times agreeing to erase the crew's memories of their contact. The Pelians are Federation members native to Peliar-Zel-2, introduced in The Host, which also introduces the Trill. The episode features a Trill ambassador negotiating a peace accord between the inhabitants of Peliar-Zel-2's moons. They're distinguished by a midline nasal outgrowth, and though their parent star has not been correlated with a real-world star system, it is a single star system with a K-type primary. Typically, this would mean vegetation on Peliar-Zel-2's surface would skew towards brown as it absorbs redder light, but the green vegetation seen in the episode could indicate the planet's orbit's close enough to the star to mimic a relatively Earth-like environment. The species of the terrorist Pommet, introduced in the episode Starship Mine, shares many visual similarities with the Fenians from Deep Space Nine, including vertical lines of nodules on their forehead, multiple nostrils, and 2 large craters on the sides of their chin, but we don't know much else about either species besides this. Loud as a Whisper features the Ramatesians, native to Romatis 3, members of whose ruling line are all deaf due to a unique hereditary condition. Over centuries, they have developed a means of communication through a relationship called a chorus, a trio of telepathic translators or interpreters. Romatis 3 is a Federation world that resides in a trinary star system near the Klingon border, the system consisting of a G, K, and M-type star. In addition to the Creosians, the Perfect Mate introduces the Regrunians, a species with grayish skin, ridges on their foreheads, and barbels on the sides of their mouths and below their lips. 2 members of the species are miners transported to the Enterprise from Herod 4. The Recags and Ceronians are featured in Man of the People, in which the Federation dispatches an ambassador to mediate a dispute between the 2 factions on the planet Ceronia. The human-like Rutians of Rutia 4 experience similar civil strife in The High Ground when the Enterprise becomes involved in the dispute when delivering medical supplies. Conundrum introduces the Satarans from Sothis 3. They possess advanced memory-wiping technology and can manipulate the computer banks of starships, though their overall technology is not as advanced as the Federation. They are incredibly strong, more so than Klingons, and can withstand shots from a Type 2 phaser. In the episode, a member of the species tricks the Enterprise crew into nearly destroying the headquarters of the Lycian species, with which the Satarans have been at war for decades.
But how did this happen? What did this to us?
We're all trying to find the guy who did this.
In another instance of trickery, Starship Mine introduces the species of Sattler, who possesses characteristic nose and forehead ridges. When holding Picard hostage, he misdirects Sattler into a baryon sweep in self-defense. The planet to which Ramatesian mediator Riva is dispatched, Salias 5, is home to a species called the Solari. Though Riva's chorus is killed, Troy convinces him to remain on the planet to mediate the Solari's 15th-century-long war. True Q features the Tograns from Tagra 4, where the Enterprise helps repair a reactor that filters atmospheric pollution from industrial waste emission. They're distinguished by facial ridges spanning from across their cheeks and upwards along the sides of their faces, as well as 4 nostrils. Suspicions features a Takaran, Dr. Jobrill, who attempts to steal metaphasic shielding technology being demonstrated aboard the Enterprise. Takaran organs are more evenly distributed throughout their bodies, and they have voluntary control of their bodies down to the cellular level, such that they can put themselves in stasis. The highly patriarchal Talarians, introduced in Suddenly Human, are characterized by hairless structures on their skulls. Their homeworld is said to orbit an F-type primary. The similarly named Tamarians, of course, introduced in Darmok, are known for their extremely metaphorical language that, until the late 24th century, was virtually impossible for the Universal Translator to intelligibly interpret. Despite early contact in the mid-23rd century, full relations are not established with the Federation until after the events of Darmok, when Picard and a Tamarian captain are stranded on El Adril 4 and must come to a common understanding to survive. Native to Sigma Tama 4, the Tamarians possess 2 long, slitted nostrils and bony ridges on their skulls, and their thumbs have elongated, sucker-like tips. Their skin is generally light brown in color, they're completely hairless, and they even have white blood, somewhat similar to the hemolymph-like substance the Breen ooze. The Tamarians are honestly one of my favorite Star Trek species, with Darmok being one of my favorite episodes, so I'm honestly glad there's a character like Kayshawn in Lower Decks. The Tanugans of Tanuga 4, as seen in A Matter of Perspective, have upswept eyebrows and multiple successive V-shaped ridges on their foreheads. In their justice system, the accused are guilty until proven innocent, which comes into play when the Enterprise is involved in a murder investigation. The human-like Terrellians, one of at least 5 different species in the galaxy with the same homophonic name, are native to the planet Terrellia. Seen in Haven, they have, as of 2364, a level of biotechnology comparable to Earth's late 20th century, and they have suffered a civil war that saw the use of deadly biological weapons. A few plague-carrying Terrellians escaped, infecting the native populations of other planets until a human physician joins them in hopes of finding a cure. Another Alpha Quadrant Terrellian species, introduced in Unification 2, has 4 arms. This suggests they may have evolved on a planet with different gravity and/or atmospheric pressure, as this would help facilitate the Terrellians having large brains while also supplying energy to those extra limbs. They would thus have also evolved from 6-limbed animals in the prehistoric past, analogous to how humans and all land vertebrates evolved from 4-finned tetrapod fish that crawled onto land and set into motion a series of events that led to our current suffering. Frame of mind features the Telonians, characterized by arches that fade from the middle of their forehead, around their temple, and back into their cheekbones. Inside the arches are a series of ridges. In mid-2369, the Prime Minister of their homeworld, Telonis IV, is arrested, throwing the government into anarchy. A Starfleet research team on the planet is considered a prime target of at least one rebel faction. When the Enterprise is sent to retrieve them, Riker is subjected to neurological torture, his mind creating a defense mechanism consisting of the play Frame of Mind to keep him grounded and sane. The Tyrans of Tyrus 7, introduced in The Quality of Life, are humanoids with the distinctive bony forehead ridges who are known for creating the exocomps. Originally developed to repair mining systems, the exocomps are discovered by Data to be sentient. Exocomps possess micro-replicators that allow them to create virtually any tool on the spot, and seem to have anti-grav components that allow them to hover and move through the air. Notably, by the time of Lower Decks, exocomps developed a family structure amongst themselves and gained the ability to engage in linguistic communication with humanoids. No Small Parts introduces an exocomp character who has constructed a mathematically perfect name, Peanut Hamper. Why? Violations, another Troy Violation episode, features the human-like telepathic Aliens, who by the late 21st century have developed a peaceful society and have embarked on an ambitious plan to construct a library containing memories from species across the Federation and beyond. The Uxmal entities are criminals from Uxmal, exiled to a moon of Mabu 6. Their consciousness has been separated from their bodies and left adrift in the moon's electromagnetic storms. Power Play sees a trio of these entities take over the minds of members of the crew, posing as crew members of the downed USS Essex, but their behavior is inconsistent with what is expected of Starfleet officers. The Enterprise is forced to separate these spirits once again and return them to their imprisoned state. The species of Vekor, featured in the Gambit, are humanoids with enlarged temples and no earlobes, somewhat similarly to the Claystrons. More human-like are the Ventaxians of Ventax II, once highly industrialized but since the 14th century having embraced an agrarian society. They once experienced overpopulation, constant warfare, ecological collapse, starvation, and pandemics, but they supposedly achieved 1,000 years of peace after their leaders invented a new religion to unite the people, constructing the mythology of Ardra, analogous to the Devil. Devil's Due sees the Enterprise uncover a con artist's attempt to pose as Ardra when a contract signed by the people expires, which would result in their enslavement. Ventax 2 is said to orbit a G-type yellow star, though we don't know much more information beyond that. The Iridians have become somewhat ubiquitous in Star Trek, introduced in Birthright, and are frequently represented as information merchants and smugglers. Indeed, the first Iridian, played by James Cromwell, sells information about a Klingon-Romulan refugee camp to Worf, and this character's name is Shrek.
Where is Shrek? Get Shrek in here. Is that Shrek? You tell him, Shrek. Hell yeah, Shrek, you tell him.
Not much is known about the Iridians' government, although it is suspected their planet, orbiting a G-type star, sustained a cataclysm that led others to believe they were extinct until they were recontacted in the 24th century. Physically, the Iridians have wrinkled skin and large, rodent-like pointy ears, but small eyes and noses. They also have an indented ridge running the full length of their heads that extends down to their nose. The Zakdorn are Federation members known for their fibrous tissue pouches on both cheeks. Hailing from a planet of the same name, as of the 24th century, they've been regarded for 9,000 years as having the greatest strategic minds in the galaxy. As demonstrated during the War Games, the Enterprise undergoes in peak performance. Zakdorn is said to orbit a binary star consisting of an M-type primary and K-type companion, which, depending on their age, could give the planet enough time to evolve complex life. Zaldans, first seen in Coming of Age, are characterized by their webbed hands. Culturally, Zaldans loathe courtesy, viewing it as phony social behavior.
I am Rondon, you despicable melanoid slime worm! Liar!
And the Zabalians, introduced in the form of Kivas Fajo in The Most Toys, are human-like aliens from Theta Zybel 2 who are known as near-obsessive collectors. Their parent star, Zeta Eridani, is a binary 110 light-years away and consists of two A-type stars with a period of 17 days, approximately 800 million years old, meaning the Zabalians likely evolved in a neighboring system or are transported to Theta Zybel 3 by a race like the Preservers. Star Trek Insurrection introduces multiple new humanoid species, starting with the Evora, aliens of small stature with a small population on their homeworld. After achieving warp drive in 2374, they agree to become a Federation protectorate, a process accelerated by Federation losses in the Battle of Sector 001 and the Dominion War. Star Charts characterizes the Evora homeworld as orbiting a red dwarf star, though we don't know if it's tidally locked or not. The Baku. Oh god, not the Baku again.
We believe that when you create a machine to do the work of a man, you take something away from the man.
The Baku are human-like aliens who reside on a planet of the same name in the Briar Patch. Due to their home planet's life-giving properties, metaphasic radiation from their planet's rings, their genetic structures are continually regenerated, stopping them from aging once they reach maturity. The Baku have remarkable mental discipline, even able to slow down the passage of time in local areas, allowing them to extend single moments. A pacifist agrarian society, they only employ simple machines, though they were once a technologically advanced civilization that explored the galaxy with warp drives and had knowledge of positronics. Their near self-annihilation from weapons of mass destruction in the early 21st century led a group to flee their original home system and settle on the planet. In the mid-23rd century, however, a band of younger Baku rejected their elders' simple lifestyle and were exiled, becoming a nomadic, spacefaring power called the Sona. Narcissistic and materialistic, the Sona raided inhabited worlds for resources and, for a time, used slave labor. Without Baku's regenerative effects, the Sona were infertile and used surgery and genetic manipulation to extend their lifespans. Insurrection sees the Baku become involved in a conspiracy between the Sona and a Starfleet admiral to remove the Baku against their will until the plan is foiled by Picard and his crew. One of the races the Sona have enslaved is the Allura, conquered in 2325. They are distinguished by their heads, surrounded by a patterned bone plate. Their homeworld supposedly orbits an A-type star with an orange dwarf companion, suggesting the Allura might not be native to the system, though their skeletal structures and commonly seen dark skin could help protect them against increased radiation. The Tarlac are another one of the races conquered by the Sona 50 years prior to the film, distinguished by forehead ridges and their overall design inspired by lions, suggesting they could be a felinoid species. species. Their homeworld is said to orbit a G-type star. And finally, in Star Trek Nemesis, the lizard-like Kalarans, native Kalaris 3 orbiting a G-type star, encounter an Enterprise away team when they salvage the android B4. Like I mentioned earlier, while TOS employs a mix of relatively plain-looking human-like aliens with more interesting non-humanoid creative designs, the films and TNG started to employ more humanoid aliens with distinctive prosthetics. DS9, of course, carries on this tradition, although given its limited budget, it still plays it relatively safe by applying different forehead makeup to Alien of the Week actors. And indeed, the show actually features way more species hailing from the Alpha and Beta quadrants than from the Gamma quadrant on the other side of the Bajoran wormhole. And just as with TNG, I won't discuss aliens introduced in DS9 that I've already made videos about, namely the Breen, Changelings, Vorta, or Jem'Hadar. With that, let's dive in. At least one member of Abden's species, none other than Abden himself, serves in Starfleet and is distinguished by his pinkish skin and hairless, ridged scalp. A species with 6 fingers on each hand, the Andorrans, hailing from a small country on the border of France and Spain, is present at DS9 for an auction, as well as at a bar on Desica 2. As I've discussed before, an alien species having more than 5 fingers is very plausible, as our number of digits is somewhat arbitrary. The Arbizon are a sexually repressed humanoid species with distinct forehead ridges, whose homeworld is a member of the Federation. Reference sources suggest their planet orbits an M-type star, whose long lifespan, if it's a red dwarf, would offer plenty of time for complex life to evolve. On the other hand, if it's a red giant, their system's primary may have started out closer to our sun in characteristics before expanding over time. The Bosilics are a non-aligned race with 2 types of forehead ridges who have a history of participating in the slave trade in local space, although some eventually go on to serve in Starfleet and have even made it as far as the Delta Quadrant. Another humanoid species, seen in the form of the traitor Kos and Rivals, has an appearance somewhat reminiscent of a cross between a Kazon and a Nausicaan. The Dopterians, distant relatives of the Ferengi, share the latter's ability to shield their thoughts from telepaths, and are said to inhabit a planet orbiting Kappa Coronae Borealis, a K-type subgiant 97 light-years away. With 1.3 times the Sun's mass and 4.8 times its radius, it is about 2.5 billion years in age, meaning it was likely colonized by the Dopterians some millennia ago, possibly after the Ferengi achieved sublight propulsion. The system also notably has a gas giant nearly 2 Jupiter masses orbiting on the inner edge of the habitable zone. The Elations, introduced in Melora, are humanoid Federation members from a low-gravity planet, although it's speculated in the novel continuity that their homeworld is artificial in nature, since an intelligent species from such a world would likely be much taller than the typical humanoid height. Emmy's species, capable of interstellar spaceflight since at least the 22nd century, possesses a pronounced brow, cranial ridge, and ridge below the lower lip. Melora also introduces the criminal Phallet Cot, whose species possesses a unique facial structure connecting their nose with their chin, leaving a loop of skin in front of their mouths. The Farians, humanoids with a rising ridge from their noses to the tops of their foreheads, hail from Farius Prime, in the Upsilon Andromedae system, 44 light-years away, which, at 4 billion years old, consists of an F-type primary, 1.2 times the Sun's mass and 1.6 times its radius, and a distant M-type companion, 20% our Sun's mass and radius, 750 AU from the main star. This system includes a gas giant, Majority, with a slightly eccentric orbit in the habitable zone at 2.5 AU that might host habitable exomoons. Unfortunately, this makes it difficult to figure out where Farius could reside. Perhaps it's a moon of Majority that's kept warm when it temporarily exits the habitable zone by tidal heating. The Farians maintain diplomatic relations with the Klingon Empire, still use paper money in 2374, and some members of the species are members of the Orion Syndicate. Mommy? A simple investigation introduces the Fenians, humanoids with distinct facial structures, and Improbable Cause features the Flaxians, at least some members of which have mottled light brown skin and ridges along their forehead, mouths, and nostrils. In the Pale Moonlight features the holographic forgery artist Grathon Tolar. Having been awaiting execution by the Klingons for unspecified crimes, he is temporarily employed by Starfleet to help bring the Romulans into the Dominion War on the Federation side. Tolar himself possesses blue skin, as well as a crest-like ridge atop his head. Homefront and Paradise Lost, of course, introduced the Grazerites in the form of Federation President Jaresh Inyo. A largely agrarian society, the Grazerites evidently evolved from a bovine species, with non-canon materials further specifying they were herbivores who, upon becoming sentient, hunted their predators to extinction, much like the Kelpians. Canon maps also indicate that, before at least the mid to late 24th century, Grazer was evidently non-aligned and then possibly annexed by the Talarian Republic before joining the Federation. Second Sight features the Halanan species, telepathic humanoids with double-pointed ears who inhabit the planet New Halana, terraformed by a Federation scientist. The Huperians, potentially a client race of the Ferengi, are tall humanoids with skin creases around their mouth, eyes, and ears. Their homeworld orbits the 1.5 solar mass K-type subgiant Tau Coronai Borealis 112 light-years away, which at 3.4 billion years old would theoretically have been able to support the evolution of complex life, although the star's expansion to 6 times the sun's radius means the Huperians may have had to migrate from their original homeworld to an outer planet in the system. Alternatively, they could have migrated into the system from another. A simple investigation also features members of the Idanian species, secretive humanoids with distinct cranial ridges. The Kelleran, later chosen as the species of Commander Raynor in Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, are introduced in Armageddon Game. Humanoids with large, pointed ears, they have fought a war with the neighboring Talani of similar appearance using biological weapons, and sometime during the 32nd century, their planet has been used as a Breen outpost, suggesting a location in the Alpha Quadrant. The Claystron, humanoids with distinct streak-like protrusions on the sides of their heads and minimal ears, ally with the Cardassians in the 24th century amidst a civil war. Their homeworld is said to orbit a K-type star, with their appearance suggesting a planet with a thick atmosphere to help transfer sound waves. Also aligned with the Cardassians are the Cobherians, similar in appearance to the Dopterians, but with differently shaped noses. The non-aligned Kobliad, interstellar travelers since at least the mid-22nd century, possess distinct bone structures connecting their nose and hairline over the forehead and face extinction by the late 24th century. The Krasari are neutral reptilian humanoids who are nonetheless sometimes employed by the Cardassians against insurgents. Their homeworld orbits a K-type star, and in the mid-23rd century, they may have been more closely aligned with the Federation. In Who Mourns for Morn, we meet Crit, who, along with his brother, took part in the Lesepian Mother's Day heist of 2365. Crit possesses similar physical characteristics to Grathon Tolar, except for his green skin and a different ridge structure underneath the lower lip. Honor Among Thieves features Kroll, another member of the Orion Syndicate on Farius, who possesses light brown skin and a large ridge extending from his nose to his hairline, as well as additional, less pronounced ridges on his cheeks and chin. The Lethians are hairless humanoids with small, beady black eyes, nearly indistinguishable noses and mouths, protruding fangs, and a distinctive ridged pattern running from the center of their faces down the back of their necks. They are powerful telepaths and are often employed by criminal organizations in the 24th century. Lesepians, humanoids with distinctive facial structures, actively trade with the Cardassians and are often used as intermediaries by the latter in the demilitarized zone. Also, they have mothers, as we noted earlier. The Lurians, of course, are tall, broad humanoids with grayish or tan skin, narrow, elongated heads, wide mouths, pug-like noses, and small, deep-set eyes. They have multiple redundant organs and can withstand many poisons and toxins better than most other species, and notably, they can store liquids in their second stomach for many years, though this results in hair loss. In the 24th century, the Lurians have a monarchy, and some members of the species enter Starfleet and are later seen in territory controlled by both the Federation and Emerald Chain. While we don't know much about their homeworld of Luria, it's said to be relatively distant from the Bajor sector. While some sources indicate it is in the Alpha Quadrant, it may be located somewhat near Klingon and Romulan space, especially given the Star Trek novel continuity describes a breakaway faction of Lurians inhabiting the Delta Muscae system 91 light-years away, and the Lurians' characteristics could give us hints at the nature of the environment in which they evolved. Their skin tones and small, deep-set eyes could suggest a homeworld orbiting a bright, hot F-type star, though this is just a guess. Luria may also have a thick atmosphere, allowing them to grow to a larger average height than humans, and hear without the need of large ears. The Markalians are another civilization frequently represented by criminals, although many others simply show up as patrons or are engaged in otherwise honest business. They are characterized by their hairless heads and small scales and thorns all over their faces, as well as a striped pattern on the backs of their skulls and small oval-shaped depressions on the sides of their heads. The Miradorn, who sign a non-aggression pact with the Dominion, are large humanoids with pale skin and foreheads divided into two hemispheres. Culturally, they consider pairs of twins to form two halves of one being, resulting in an extremely close relationship. Business as usual shows us the Palomarians, humanoids with a distinct vertical forehead ridge who are engaged in a brutal civil war. The Rossinians are humanoids with wrinkled blue skin and a bony exoskeleton covering their face. The Rycians, of course, are humanoids who hail from the Federation planet Risa. They closely resemble humans except for a small ornamentation on their foreheads, but internally their physiology differs significantly from humans. Their planet, known for being a major vacation destination, was once plagued by torrential earthquakes and rainstorms that the Rycians tamed with a weather control system. And the species is known for their sex-positive culture. Risa orbits Epsilon Ceti b, an F-type star nearly the same mass as our Sun and 1.3 times its radius, which is a companion of the F-type Primary about 1.5 times our Sun's mass and radius. The two stars are separated by 0.11 AU on average, with an orbital period just over 2.5 years, which makes the system's habitable zone a little precarious. Between this and the fact that the system is just 1.8 billion years old, the Rycians may have evolved in another star system. Riska's species, as seen in life support, has distinctive ridges that run along their foreheads. The same can be said of Sarda's species, who also possess pointed ears, and of Tellura's species, a member of which also took part in the Lessepian Mother's Day heist. The Tavnians, introduced in The Muse, divide the two sexes upon birth, with boys raised by the men and girls by the women. Children are not told the opposite sex exists until age 16, and the men consider their wives to be property. Tyrone, it's my boy Tyrone, seen in Meridian, is a business associate of Quarks whose species has segmented faces with green coloration and are part of the Jeffrey Combs cinematic universe. Tyron, that's probably how it's pronounced. Trejak, seen in Playing God, has 3 sets of thorned ridges on his forehead, and he may be a member of the Katarian species introduced in TNG and featured in the form of Katarian human hybrid Naomi Wildman in Voyager. The reptilian Tigerians are one of the first Alpha Quadrant species to explore the Gamma Quadrant. The Valerians, humanoids with a distinctive vertical facial ridge and other facial structures, ally with the Cardassians and supply them with weapons during the occupation of Bajor, but after the occupation, they also trade with the Federation. They are said to hail from a binary system with a pair of G-class stars. The Zeppelites are a neutral species who often work as intermediaries for the Cardassians. They possess grayish skin with relatively flattened noses. Yent is an arms dealer for the Orion Syndicate, whose facial structure also incorporates bony ridges along the top of their heads and in the middle of their faces. And Zolan's species is distinguished by rounded forehead structures and wide enlarged nostrils. The Argrathi, humanoids with grayish skin and mild forehead ridges, implant false memories of incarceration into convicted criminals as seen in Hard Time. Their homeworld is said to orbit a G-type star. The Dosai, introduced in Rules of Acquisition, are extremely aggressive negotiators known for their distinctive face paint, and their homeworld is said to orbit an M-type star. The Ennis and Null Ennis are two factions of a single human-like species that have been engaged in a violent conflict for generations, as depicted in battle lines. The Hunters in Captive Pursuit are characterized by pale yellow skin and corrugated foreheads, and they hail from the same homeworld as the Tosk, reptilians bred and trained as prey and probably given sentience via genetic engineering. Tosk can make themselves invisible, have great agility, require only 17 minutes of rest per day, and keep liquid nutrients stored in fibers throughout their bodies. Their homeworld orbits a K-class star. The Karma are prominent members of the Dominion, and the first relations between the Karma and the Alpha Quadrant are established with the Ferengi. Tall, slender humanoids with skin folds around their eyes, nose, and mouth, they have a prominent midline ridge extending upwards from the forehead and have dark hair. This likely implies a homeworld with a slightly lower surface gravity than Earth, and their planet orbits in a binary system with a K and G-type star. The Paradans excrete odors from their skin that change in intensity with an individual's mood, and they are experts in creating replicants. They have a very distinctive head shape, and their homeworld is said to orbit a binary pair consisting of a B and F-type star, meaning the Paradans likely originated from another star system, as B-type stars are far too hot and short-lived to support complex life. The Ricari are polygamous humanoids with mild forehead ridges who have mythical stories about the changelings. Celton Rical's species has even milder facial ridges and have inhabited the planet Meridian for millennia, meaning they are also partially non-corporeal as Meridian shifts into another dimension. The Skria are humanoids with an agricultural and matriarchal society who possess rough textured skin. They were conquered by the T-Rograns in the 16th century before the T-Rograns themselves were conquered by the Dominion, prompting the Skria to flee to their homeworld, believing that, according to prophecy, they were destined to settle on Bajor, but the provisional government declines the Skria's petition, leading the Federation to resettle them on Draylon II. The Teplins are human-like aliens who, for generations, suffer from a Jem'Hadar-inflicted condition called the Blight, as seen in The Quickening. The Viralans, hailing from a system with a G-type primary and K-type companion, possess less pronounced facial ridges, and they are notable for being the form Laz takes on before he journeys to Deep Space Nine and Chimera. The Wadi are human-like aliens with distinctive symbols painted or tattooed on their foreheads. Weeks after a Vulcan ship makes first contact with them, a Wadi ship visits Deep Space Nine, but are only interested in gaming at Quarks. They are, indeed, known for their game Chula that traps players in a virtual world. Their home planet is said to orbit an A-type star, meaning the Wadi may have originated from another star system. Finally, the Yadarans are human-like aliens who excel in holotechnology. Their homeworld, orbiting a G-type star, was annexed by the Dominion in 2340, changing the Yadaran way of life dramatically. Just like with DS9, I'll start with some species native to local space in the Alpha and Beta quadrants before moving into the Delta quadrant, where Voyager spends 7 years exploring strange new worlds full of people with prosthetic appliances. Once again, just as a reminder, I'm only going to talk about extant intelligent alien species introduced on screen in Voyager, and I won't talk about aliens fitting this description that I've already covered on this channel, specifically the Voth, Hirogen, and Species 8472. The Dolly Pollywalkins largely resemble humans in appearance except for a row of ridges running down the center of their foreheads, as well as pronounced skin above their eyebrows. And one of these several Milky Way species, called the Turellians, this Federation member species has even more pronounced ridges that zigzag across their faces. Oh, yeah, that's it. The show mostly takes place in the Delta Quadrant, so that's going to be like 90% of this video. The junkyard owner Abaddon from Alice sports a white complexion with brown keratin-like structures on his face. The fascist Acriterians, as seen in The Shoot, have slight ridging on their forehead. Their homeworld of Acriteria orbits a pair of K-type stars, which would explain the brown vegetation on their planet. The reptilian Ankari, introduced in Equinox, use a unique form of propulsion and have the power to summon nucleogenic life forms from beyond our dimension, capable of storing a great deal of energy that can be used to drastically augment warp propulsion systems. The Inari, as seen in Nightingale, have green or greenish-brown skin and bony facial structures. They rule the Inari Empire and have been at war with the Kraylor, humanoids distinguished by gill-like structures extending from their ears down their jaw ridges, whose homeworld orbits an F-type star. The Antarians host the Transstellar Rally as featured in Drive, and hail from a homeworld orbiting a G-type star. Augrus species from Resistance are distinguished from humans by a small bone structure on the bridge of their noses. Their homeworld, governed by an oppressive regime, orbits a binary consisting of an F and G-type star whose combined stellar energy could produce great biodiversity. The Bomar have spotted skin and ridged structures extending down the center of their faces. Controlling the Bomar sovereignty, they reluctantly let Voyager pass through their space in The Raven. The Baneth are a xenophobic and reclusive tentacled species seen in Riddles, whose homeworld is said to orbit a binary consisting of an A and K-type star, increased radiation from which would normally be damaging to DNA, but is somewhat more plausible with such a non-humanoid species. The friendly Banians from Ex Post Facto have distinctive forehead ridges and feather-like structures on their face, and their homeworld orbits a pair of F-type stars. They once shared a planet with the Bania, who are shown to have very prominent segmented bony facial structures and browner skin. The Benkarans, introduced in Repentance, have slightly wider skulls than humans and distinctive bone structures around their eyes. They are considered to be predisposed to criminal behavior by the Nigeans, who also have a distinctive ridge that extends from the tops of their foreheads down to their necks. The Botha, as seen in Persistence of Vision, are reclusive telepathic humanoids with wrinkled white skin. The Bernari are humanoids with distinctive nasal ridges who are persecuted by the Devore because of their psionic abilities, as seen in Counterpoint. The Brunali have even larger cranial ridges raised from their noses to the tops of their foreheads. Once an advanced civilization, they have been forced back to an agrarian state by frequent Borg attacks on their homeworld, which orbits a large M-type star. This would suggest that Brunal may have once orbited a primary very similar in composition to our sun. The Katati are polytheistic humanoids who have been devastated by the Borg, some of which have even reached the Alpha Quadrant. The Chokuzan, as seen in Q2, are humanoids with very pronounced facial ridges and tan skin. The cytoplasmic life forms, which operate technology through biochemical secretions and have a language consisting of high-pitched shrieks, are seen in Nothing Human. Dallas species from Live Fast and Prosper, in which con artist members of the species impersonate the Voyager crew, are distinguished by a bifurcating cartilaginous ridge running vertically down their foreheads and stopping at the nose. Denali, featured in Critical Care, are outwardly indistinguishable from humans, but have different internal physiology and kidnap the Doctor to aid them as they are experiencing ecological disasters. The distortion ring from Twisted is a spatial anomaly that can alter the shape of space-time itself, its sentience discovered by Janeway after the lifeform copies Voyager's entire database. The Dralians, also seen in Critical Care, have cranial ridges from their noses over their foreheads and also patterned skin. The Drayans from Innocence are outwardly human-looking, save for a triangular scaly patch on their foreheads. Their aging process is also very unusual, completely reversing towards the end of their life until their elderly resemble children. At this point, they feel a powerful instinct to travel to a cave on one of their homeworld's outermost moons, where they go to die. Their homeworld of Drayan 2 is said to orbit an F-type star. The so-called dream aliens from Waking Moments are telepathic humanoids with orange or white skin, sharp ridges on their foreheads and necks, as well as a horn that sprouts from their chin. They exist on their homeworld in a perpetually unconscious state, with Chakotay wondering aloud how they could have evolved this way. Their planet is also very gaseous and said to orbit in a trinary system of M-type stars, which could potentially point to it being tidally locked. The Inarans, as seen in Remember, are telepathic humanoids with red spotting around their eyes and forehead, as well as small overlapping plates covered by hair. Their society, hailing from a homeworld orbiting an F-type star, has a long history of discrimination against those who reject modern technology. The Antharans, seen in retrospect, are distinguished by a complex midline structure above their noses, and they are very dependent on trade with other species. The Atanians are aggressive and expansionist aliens featured in Rise, whose appearance is distinguished by a number of ridges extending from the center of their faces. Phantom species, seen in The Void, are a nomadic people with flat noses, green skin, and slight forehead ridges. They do not communicate verbally, but are very intelligent, fast learners, and can survive in oxygen-free environments for some time. They also have higher lung capacity and voracious appetites, likely a response to their resource-scarce lifestyle. The Garen are humanoids with greenish skin and tough cranial structures who request medical assistance from Voyager and Macrocosm. The Hakonians are tall, pale-skinned humanoids with swirled facial structures who conquered Neelix's homeworld of Talax, as discussed in Jetrel. The Hanonians, tribal humanoids on the verge of civilization, possess similar raised ridges on their foreheads, cheeks, and chins, but have yellow skin. Their homeworld, Hanon 4, where the Voyager crew is stranded by the Kazon and Basics, orbits an F-type and M-type binary. The Hazari, bounty hunters seen in Think Tank, have significant bony structures on their heads and pale mottled skin. Their homeworld is said to orbit a K-type star, consistent with their paler complexion. The Alari are authoritarian humanoids seen in Warlord, with tube-like ridges above their nose. The Imhotep are also participants in the Antarian Transstellar Rally, and their makeup reuses elements from the Benzites, a major difference being their browner skin. And so far, the lack of evidence that they possess a vape god. Members of the Jai species are employed by the Denali as administrators, and their homeworld is a quaternary system consisting of a trio of K-type stars and an M-type companion. The Kadi are very religious humanoids with bulbous forehead structures, as seen in Someone to Watch Over Me. The Kassat are humanoids with distinctive rippled brow ridges and spot patterns above their temples and on their necks. Voyager cooperates with their government after being attacked by the Byneth. The Kobali are humanoids with grayish-white skin, as well as flat ears and a mottled purple pattern on their hairless heads. Their most distinctive trait is that they reproduce by reanimating the corpses of other species, altering their DNA and transforming them into fellow Kobali. This happens to Ensign Lindsay Ballard, as detailed in Ashes to Ashes, as she is killed on an away mission and recovered by the Kobali. The Kraden, seen in Nemesis, are large humanoids with muscular ridges around their faces and teeth on all sides of their mouths. They were engaged in a war with the human-like agricultural Vori, who accused them of committing a variety of atrocities, though there is no independent evidence of the Kraden's vicious nature, and in fact the Vori are shown to capture and indoctrinate individuals to possess a racist drive to kill Kraden. The Kyrians, humanoids with small ridges above their noses, share a homeworld with the Vaskans, who have more pronounced facial structures. The two species fight a war with each other that still leaves scars into the 31st century, when a copy of the Doctor helps bring a new peace to their society. Their planet is said to orbit an A-type star, meaning the two species might not be native to the system. The Ladosians are peaceful humanoids with a V-shaped ridge extending from their noses to their hairlines. Their homeworld Lidos orbits a trinary system consisting of an F-type, M-type, and K-type star. A genetic offshoot called the Ventu are hunter-gatherers, who the Ladosians considered to be their evolutionary precursors, much like how Homo sapiens once coexisted with several other intelligent hominid species until we It killed them off. Sorry, my lawyer has told me I need to add in addition to other naturalistic factors. Lidos was also once visited by species 312, which erected a protective energy barrier over the Ventus territory, and the Star Trek Encyclopedia posits that species 312 might have been the preservers. The Lokirim, introduced in Body and Soul, are known for fighting an ongoing war against insurgent holograms. The Lokirim are distinguished by a small U-shaped ridge above their noses. McCool's species are pre-warp humanoids seen in Time and Again, where Janeway creates a new timeline that prevents an explosion that fractures their planet and leads to the species' extinction. Their homeworld is said to orbit an M-type star, though there's no evidence the planet is tidally locked. The Malon have yellowish-brown skin and broad noses with distinctively shaped nostrils. Their foreheads also have slight ridge-like protrusions, and they have brown hair. The Malon are known for producing large quantities of hazardous antimatter waste that they must export. Though they attempt to find uninhabited regions for this waste, sometimes it is dumped in inhabited space, and the waste export industry has a profit motive to resist efforts to develop cleaner technologies. Members of Morena's species, seen in Alter Ego, in which Morena hacks Voyager's holodeck, have black spots on their foreheads, noses, and chins. The Mari are human-like telepathic aliens seen in Random Thoughts, whose society harshly punishes thought crime. Their homeworld is said to orbit a binary pair of A-type stars, meaning the Mari might not be native to the system. The Mikal Travelers are a loosely governed race of explorers seen in Darkling, distinguished by faint nose ridges. The Mislanites, seen in The Swarm, are distinguished by pale skin and pronounced bony structures on their heads. The Monians, introduced in 30 Days, are a formerly nomadic people who settled on an artificial planetoid they call the Waters. Salamander-like in appearance, they have distinctive nostril shapes and a pattern of brown spots on their noses, foreheads, and around their eyes. Mylians inhabit a region of space near Talax, and while they are not known to share a common ancestry, the two species occasionally interbreed. Based on a mutation experienced by Neelix in Scientific Method, Mylians might have brown spots all over their bodies, which could serve any number of purposes. They also have no taste buds and are intolerant of bright light due to their dilated pupils, which suggests they may have evolved on a world orbiting a dimmer star than our sun. The Nasari are blue-skinned humanoids with prominent facial structures who attack, without warning, any ship carrying a Teresian. Teresians reproduce by infecting males of other species with a retrovirus that mutates them into Teresians. They attempt to inflict— hey, that's just like that other episode. They attempt to inflict this process on Harry Kim and Favorite Son when he is abducted to their homeworld, which orbits a K-type primary with a G-type companion. Another victim is Taemon, and I kid you not, I had to restart that sentence multiple times because I kept wanting to say Tavon, whose species is distinguished by red spots on their faces. The Teresians themselves are distinguished with a spotted pattern on their heads and necks. The Nachani are ritualistic humanoids with minor ridges on their noses who help Janeway treat Kes when she falls ill on their planet in Sacred Ground. The Nachani homeworld orbits a binary system consisting of a K-type star and an A-type companion, meaning the Nachani might not be native to this system, although the planet orbiting a K-type star is consistent with the browner vegetation seen on the planet's surface in the episode. The Nazu are humanoids with ridges running down the centers of their faces and small horns protruding above their eyes. They are encountered by Voyager and Rise when the Atanians attack a Nazu colony with asteroid strikes. The so-called Night Aliens are humanoids native to the Void who claim to have inhabited it undisturbed for millions of years. They are distinguished by their hairless brown skin with several folds and black growths, and they are incredibly photosensitive. It's likely, in my view, that they evolved around a star relatively similar to our sun, if not brighter, given they aren't actually pale as one would expect after such a long time in a dark environment, meaning their skin pigmentation evidently aids in camouflage. The Norcadians, distinguished by a protruding nasal ridge, invented the popular sport Tsunkatse as seen in the episode of the same name, featuring The Rock as a Pandari athlete, distinguished by a series of forehead ridges. Their homeworld of Norcadia Prime orbits an A-type star, meaning they may not be native to the system, perhaps corroborated by their somewhat low Borg designation of Species 689. Other possible members of the species also have spherical bony ridges on their faces. The Nubari are humanoids with a distinctive skull shape who employ primitive holograms as laborers, as seen in Flesh and Blood. The Nerians are human-like aliens who, in Displaced, are shown to gradually replace the populations of foreign vessels, space stations, and colonies, and place prisoners in a simulation of their native habitat as an alternative to warfare. They prefer a darker, warmer, less humid environment, suggesting they may have evolved on a world orbiting a dimmer star than our sun that nonetheless orbits close enough or has a thick enough atmosphere to generate warmer temperatures, closer to the infrared range of the electromagnetic spectrum. The Ocampa, of course, are telepathic aliens introduced in the form of Kess in Caretaker. Generally, well, actually, I guess there are other Ocampa there too. Generally human-like in appearance, save for ears with unique skin folds, the Ocampa are known for aging rapidly, reaching adulthood by the age of 1, and having average lifespans of only 8 or 9 years. An interesting biological trait bogged down in many viewers' eyes by Kess's romantic relationship with Neelix. Man, they really just wrote that in the year of our Lord 1995, didn't they? Otran species, humanoids with distinctive forehead ridges, inhabit a planet named Uxal, according to Star Trek star charts, that was encountered by United Earth's Friendship 1 probe, with disastrous consequences. The Overlookers are humanoids with dull brown, leathery skin, as well as lumpy and hairless heads and small ears. Members of the species seen in the show have a rotund appearance, and their government is called the Hierarchy. They regularly surveil passing ships to plan raids, and I think that their design is just so funny. I love these aliens. Photonic life forms from a trans-dimensional realm, unaware of the existence of carbon-based life, encounter Voyager's holodeck in Bride of Chaotica. Robots constructed by the Praelor, which overthrew their creators, recruit B'Elanna Torres to construct more of their kind and prototype. The Praelor homeworld is said to orbit a trinary system consisting of a G, M, and K-type star. The Komar are xenophobic humanoids with a ridged protrusion above their noses. They are shorter than the average human, and I have to say I also resisted the urge to say shorter than the average bear, suggesting a slightly higher surface gravity on their homeworld, and despite being very mathematical, their society lacks music. This leads the Doctor to become an icon on the planet after introducing music in Virtuoso. The Quarren, as opposed to the Quarians, are an advanced species, human-like in appearance, save for a protrusion on their chin, who employ a multi-species workforce as seen in, Workforce. The Rakosans are humanoids, distinguished by prominent cranial structures and brownish skin, whose homeworld Rakosa 5 accidentally falls in the path of a self-guided Cardassian missile in Dreadnought. The Romurans are human-like aliens, save for uniquely shaped ears, who possess a closed society as seen in Unforgettable. The Sakari are vaguely human-like aliens inhabiting a planet in the Necrid Expanse, whose civilization was decimated by the Borg, as revealed in Blood Fever. The Sarosians, seen in Revulsion, also appear human-like and utilize holograms for labor. Their homeworld, Saros, as opposed to Pharos, I'm sorry, I really do just get on these videos and I just keep talking about Mass Effect, is said to orbit a trinary system consisting of an M-type primary with G and K-type companions. The Chevolians are Saurian humanoids featured in Survival Instinct, who also have a low Borg designation number, 521. The Sicarians are human-like aliens with a remarkably pleasure-oriented society who develop spatial trajector technology, as seen in Prime Factors. Their homeworld, Sikaris, is said to orbit a binary system consisting of 2 K-type stars, though the episode depicts Sikaris as orbiting a single star, meaning the second one could be a distant companion if the designation is not an error. The silver blood is a biomimetic life form native to a Class Y planet orbiting an M-type star. In its natural state, the silver blood appears as metallic liquid and has the ability to change itself into matter it comes into contact with, be it biological or technological. First introduced in Demon, it goes on to copy the entire Voyager crew and eventually leaves the planet, this crew forgetting their true origins in one of the most chilling and awesome episodes of Voyager, Course Oblivion. The Sky Spirits, so named by a Native American tribe, were ancient astronauts who still reside on a planet in the Delta Quadrant orbiting an F and G-type binary star. They are distinguished by a series of forehead ridges and can impart genetic memories through touch. The Sky Spirits, as revealed in Tattoo, visited Earth some 43,000 years ago and are said to have genetically influenced early humans. Something I really wish wasn't canon because, in real life, ancient aliens hypothesis is cringe racist pseudoscience. Species 116 are fast at learning new languages and are very adept at cryptoanalysis. They are distinguished by their bald, earless heads and were mostly wiped out by the Borg as detailed in Hope and Fear. Species 125 is the designation for a vaguely human-like species, a member of which, seen in Dark Frontier, goes on to become the Borg Queen. Species 571, also seen in Survival Instinct, are a religious people distinguished by a bifurcating ridge running vertically down their foreheads, stopping at the upper lip. Species 6339, seen in Infinite Regress, are humanoids with extensive cranial ridges who are perhaps almost entirely assimilated by the Borg in the 2370s. Species 10026 have Brunali-like nasal ridges, whose population is almost entirely assimilated by the Borg as seen in Dark Frontier. The Strivani are humanoids with large skin structures over their ears, as well as mottled, colored patterns along their jaws and temples. Seen in Scientific Method, they are known for finding experimentation on other sentient species an acceptable method of gaining knowledge. The Swarm species, featured in Swarm, are hostile aliens native to a region of the same name who have a very unusual facial structure. The Tac are seen in Macrocosm, trying to rid infected ships and colonies of the virus, distinguished by forehead ridges and a prominent protrusion extending vertically from the hairline all the way to their chins, even over their mouths. Their homeworld is said to orbit a quaternary system of 4 K-type stars, consistent with the brownish vegetation seen on their planet. The Takarians are a pre-industrial human-like species with Bronze Age technology who, in False Prophets, are taken advantage of by 2 Ferengi who crash on their homeworld, Takar, after being stranded in the Delta Quadrant by the unstable Barzan wormhole. The Talaxians, of course, are featured prominently in the form of Neelix throughout the show, though we see other Talaxians as well. They have large areas of yellow to reddish-brown spotting along their foreheads, arms, and bodies. Generally stocky with dense musculature, their homeworld of Talax might possess higher gravity than Earth, as these are traits that would be promoted in a higher gravity environment. Talax is also said to orbit a trinary system consisting of 2 G-type stars and a K-type companion, consistent with the green vegetation seen on Talax's surface. To be honest, guys, I really do not want to spend much longer talking about them because, well, Neelix. The Telsians are humanoids with ridged craniums hailing from Telsius Prime, near the galactic core. Another species named the Terrellians reside in a small trinary system near the site of the Antarian Transstellar Rally and have ears very reminiscent of the Halanans. The Trabe frequently feature throughout Voyager's second season as they are depicted as the conquerors of the Kazon. They are distinguished by prominent, wavy facial protuberances above the eyes and nose and hail from a planet orbiting a K-type primary. The Terrae, distinguished by grayish skin and extensive bony protuberances, are the keepers of the underspace corridors discovered by the cobra-like Vaadwaur in the 15th century, as portrayed in Dragon Age. I'm sorry, Dragon's Teeth, I've got BioWare on the mind. The Vero are authoritarian aliens featured in The Disease, who outwardly resemble humans. They traditionally mate for life, their body chemistries becoming interdependent. This becomes a problem when Harry Kim can't keep it in his pants. The Venori, seen in Emanations, are humanoids with large bony foreheads whose death rituals involve sending people, including lonely or depressed and disabled people, through subspace vacuoles that lead to an asteroid in the Delta Quadrant, where bodies have been piling up for thousands of years. The Venori in the episode are said to be from another dimension or parallel universe, and aliens with their makeup are seen in the Saporis system in Deep Space Nine, meaning their homeworld may be in the Alpha Quadrant. The Vidians, of course, are prominently featured throughout Voyager and are known for suffering from a disease called the phage that eats skin and internal organs, damaging their DNA. Their base appearance is similar to humans except for a swept-back hairline, an enlarged forehead without eyebrows, as well as a faint ridge running from the hairline down the center of their face to the top of their nose. Vior's species operate at the coal settlement as seen in The Thaw, having entered into hibernation using an interactive simulation meant to keep their minds active. They're distinguished by a series of forehead bumps. Crew of a Wasanti starship, members of which are distinguished by a midline ridge on their foreheads, adopt two former Borg drones of their species in imperfection. And the Zal are a generally non-confrontational species who, in one timeline, defeated the Krenim Imperium as seen in Year of Hell. They are distinguished by a series of bony ridges on their faces, as well as their brownish skin. While Lower Decks, of course, features plenty of aliens introduced in the previous series, like I mentioned earlier, the animated medium yields some pretty noteworthy designs that I thought I'd showcase in this video. Members of Addix's species are tall, slender humanoids with gray, glossy skin, sunken cheeks, pointed ears, and a pronounced forehead. They may be Federation members, and are frequently seen working in various settings associated with other Federation member races. The Anabaj, as revealed in Envoys, are one of several shape-shifting species throughout the galaxy, normally possessing reptilian traits like slit pupils, frilled heads, pointy teeth, and a long, forked tongue. They are also telepathic and can climb up walls like a gecko. The Apragosians are featured in Strange Energies and have yellow-orange skin, with hair ranging from bright orange to dark brown. Pre-industrial Apragosians are known to have harnessed strange energy, which inadvertently infects Commander Jack Ransom on an away mission. Their native planet of Apragos may orbit a G-type star given the green pigmentation of plant life on its surface and the green algae color of its oceans. The Arior are ornithoids featured in A Mathematically Perfect Redemption, who used to be very technologically advanced but embraced a pre-industrial lifestyle after engaging in frequent wars with other alien races. Eventually, their near-total isolation had overwhelmingly negative effects like increased disease, malnutrition, and infant mortality after crashing on the Arior's home planet of Areolis. The Exocomp Peanut Hamper uses her advanced scientific knowledge and mechanical abilities to improve their lives, though ultimately with a selfish goal in mind. The Arior are six-limbed with a somewhat similar morphology to Aurelians. They have digitigrade legs and clawed feet, their feathers come in a variety of colors, and like all animals on Areolis, they possess large wings that allow them to fly. Their faces are owl-like, with large orange eyes, vertically slit pupils, and hooked beaks, and they reproduce by laying eggs. Given the presence of green vegetation on Areolis' surface, it's likely the planet orbits a G-type star, and the planet's gravity and atmospheric composition are likely different from Earth's in order to enable powered flight in large animals. The carnivorous moss is encountered by the lower deckers on the planet Grotinus in the episode Caves. When roused, it is bioluminescent and capable of speech, movement, as well as rapid regeneration. It can consume entire animals by engulfing them, leaving only their bones, but it also has a clear desire for learning and companionship, allowing the officers to complete their mission and tell stories about their adventures. The Corazonians are a humanoid species distinguished by pale red forehead spots and long eyebrows. They inhabit the Dyson ring Corazonia, created by another species some 6 million years ago before they ascended to a higher dimension. They pride themselves as artists and poets and share a deep bond with Vexilon, the sentient computer tasked with regulating Corazonia's biosphere. The Dilmarians are a pre-industrial people distinguished by blunt horns on their foreheads, skin ranging from orange to yellow, and hair ranging from green to blue. They are native to Dilmer 3, whose core creates a space-time differential, resulting in extreme time dilation as depicted in Fully Dilated. The Dupplers are humanoids known for involuntarily duplicating themselves as a defense mechanism. Though highly embarrassing for them, which can often lead to a chain reaction, the duplicates can merge back together when a Duppler calms down. The Drukmani are large, warlike humanoids with gray skin, white hair, and tusks who inhabit space near the Klingon Empire. The Dulanians, as seen in The Least Dangerous Game, are one of the few species in Star Trek shown to use space elevators, or orbital lifts. Like Dilmer 3, their planet Dulane orbits what appears to be a blue star, and the Dulanians have reddish-orange skin and light-colored hair. Their society is referred to as wellness-based, highly valuing exercise and athletics, and are famed for their hospitality, dressing skimpily with bare midriffs like certain other aliens. But they also have a strict religion, with sinners liable to be sacrificed to the sentient volcano Morgo, who rules the planet along with a telepathic baby and a sentient computer. Guys, no one can say that Lower Decks doesn't know exactly what it's doing when it comes to tropes in the Star Trek universe. The Galardonians are introduced in the series' first episode. Pig-like in appearance, they are also very short with purplish skin. This could suggest their homeworld Galardon has a higher surface gravity, though the presence of large arachnids would also have implications about the concentration of gases like oxygen in their atmosphere. The Galamites, previously mentioned in Deep Space Nine to have transparent skulls, are first seen on screen in The Best Exotic Nanite Hotel. Their pink brains are very large, twice the size of a human's, and they have an array of sharp teeth. Temporal Edict depicts the Gelrakians, native to the Federation planet Gelrak 5. They have green skin and sharp teeth, and their social structure is centered around crystals. The quadrupedal Graflax also appears in caves, native to Balkus 9, where it raises its young in pools of water. Starfleet discovers their sentience after Rutherford engineers a universal translator to interpret the Graflax's growls, learning that attacks on humanoids are only meant as an act of defense against their offspring, whose appendages mimic medicinal aquatic ferns. The natives of Ketuvon Prime, also seemingly orbiting a blue star, are featured in Veritas, when the Cerritos rescues a Ketuvian from imprisonment by the Romulans. The Quopians are monarchical amphibious aliens with blue skin who somewhat resemble axolotls. They are native to the swampy planet Quopa, where Starfleet helps repair their water filtration system in Much Ado About Boimler. The Cloacans, another bird-like species with an unfortunate name, hail from the planet Cloaca. The species has feathers that come in a variety of colors and are of average humanoid height. They are capable of fluffing their down to appear larger in front of threats, though they consider the act embarrassing. Their methods of eating sometimes involve regurgitation, and indeed, food is very central to their culture. The Cerritos Cloacan counselor, Dr. Miglimo, even claims his species invented space travel to seek out, quote, strange new meals. Chromsapiods, also seen in The Least Dangerous Game, are large humanoids with powerfully built upper bodies, as well as digitigrade legs and long tails that end in barbed tips. Their faces are covered in articulated plates, and they have very sharp teeth, as well as claws on their three-fingered hands that allow them to climb up walls and ceilings. Their skin is green in color, as is their blood, which, as I've discussed before, could be based on the protein chlorochlororin, found in some earthworms and leeches. They are predators with an undeniable urge to hunt, though they commonly practice catch and release ritualized hunts involving sentient prey who consents to be hunted. How considerate. First Contact introduces the Lapirians, native to the Earth-like Lapiria, which the Cerritos and USS Archimedes make first contact with in 2381. The Lapirians have green skin, yellow eyes, small crests atop their heads, and 2 larger fins on each side of their faces. The inhabitants of the Mixtus system are purple humanoids with pointy ears, flat noses, and 2 crests atop their bald heads. They seek the aid of Starfleet in addressing an unstable moon in Cupid's errant arrow. Narge's species are sapient plant-like aliens who nonetheless possess a skeletal structure, one of which operates a menagerie in Federation space, as seen in I Have No Bones Yet I Must Flee. The Achminians are light green-skinned humanoids with 2 pairs of horns on their temples and cheeks who inhabit the transdimensional planet Achminic 9, which receives supplies from Starfleet in The Stars at Night. Of Gods and Angles depicts the Orbs and Cubes, 2 sentient non-humanoid energy-based species who inhabit the Veriflex Nebula and have long been in conflict with each other. The Plymarians are reptilian humanoids native to the planet Plymaria, conquered and enslaved by the AI Agamus in a few Badgies more. The Scrubble are silicate humanoids indigenous to Genghis 4, discovered by Federation outpost scientists in the 24th century, as mentioned in Mining the Mind's Mines. Siggy's species are tentacled aliens, one member of which works as a representative of the Collectors Guild and harbors prejudice against Orions as depicted in Kayshawn His Eyes Open. The Targalans are orange-skinned, purple-haired humanoids with extremely long ears. Their planet Targalus 9 joins the Federation in the late 24th century as part of their transition from a capitalist economy to a post-scarcity society, as portrayed in Shades of Green. Anthusa's species are parasitic blue-skinned humanoids who also inhabit the planet Baucus 9. Thusa serves as a guide for a Cerritos away team before she is killed by the Graflax. Before her death, she impregnates Rutherford through dermal contact, transferring her consciousness into a protein mass that grows into a baby clone in a matter of seconds. This scenario is certainly a play on Trip's experience in the Enterprise episode Unexpected, making Thusa's species another alien in Star Trek in which the males carry offspring, observed in some Earth animals such as seahorses. With that, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below and don't forget to share it. That stuff really helps me out. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to do that as well so you don't miss future uploads, and click the bell icon to receive all notifications. If you want to support my work even further, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OrangeRiver, link in the description, or become a YouTube member by clicking the join button on my channel page. I just want to give a quick shout out to all of my donors who allow me to bring on outside talent like editors to make more high quality content for you to enjoy. By becoming a Patreon member, you also get access to awesome perks like behind the scenes photos and videos, Patreon member only polls, name in the credits, merch discounts, and more. Or you can drop a one-time super thanks or PayPal donation. All are appreciated. Links to my PayPal as well as my social media merch store, where you can get a shirt like this designed by my good friend Phobia, are in the description below. Also, just as a reminder, I do have a second channel, OrangeRiver Plus, where I've uploaded the VODs of lots of my gaming streams, with more on the way. And in addition to some other goofy one-offs and extra behind-the-scenes content, I've officially made it my second streaming platform, so be sure to subscribe there too so you don't miss any new content. That's all I have for this week. Live long and prosper.